Thank you all for joining us in this celebration of Yolanda De Andrade's life. I'd like to begin by introducing Malia Ahu, who has been a soul sister, dear heart friend, and colleague with Yolanda for decades. Recently, they have been in an inquiry group that meets weekly for the past 7 years. Malia will begin with an invocation and a meditation.
Hello, dear ones. Do you hear me well? We're here today to celebrate and honor the precious life and auspicious death of Yolanda De Andrade, our beloved sister and friend. She was and is a luminous, radiant consciousness emerging from and resting as mysterious source of absolute emptiness. So let's breathe, deepening our breaths, breathing into your belly, sensing your feet on the ground, your breath in the belly. It's coming into more of a fullness of your own breathing and sensing of your own body. Opening to being here, just this, just as you are, here in this moment, and sensing your heart. Deepening your breath to meet your heart. We are Yolanda's loves, those who have loved her and been loved by her loving community. In this room, here gathered, and on Zoom, in the Zoom room, by the magic of Zoom, there are people who have loved and do love Yolanda all over the world joining us. And we're coming together to be able to hold ceremony for her. So for a moment, I encourage you to look around and see who's here. Whether you're in this physical room here, what is a grace it is for us to actually gather, or if you're on the Zoom room, to scroll through and look and see who's present here. And have a breath. We're entering sacred space together, sacred circle. Breathing in and out together, sensing one another's presence, We're here with each other and for each other, with each other and for each other, with the shared love and loss, and that our grief and our joy might commingle unapologetically. Yolanda lived a good life. She has grown and matured, bringing the essence of her gifts of consciousness into human form. Having them honed and polished and tested, embracing her very human experience, her very human life, with its opportunities and challenges, with its sufferings and misunderstandings, with great courage, steadfastness, curiosity and wonderment, compassion, trust, and love. She has been humbled and delighted by her process of discovery, and she has laughed a lot. Her joy was infectious, and the purity of her joy and her laughter was so uplifting. Such a delight, so much bliss did she embody. Yolanda had a good death. She had a conscious, awake death, supported by her amazing, loving, dear, dear husband, Anthony, and her family, and her friends, her teachers, and her students. She had a lot of love in her life. She has a lot of love right here amongst us. So we're breathing now, and we're being here together, feeling our ceremonial circle around her. A living mandala of love with Yolanda at the center. Breathing it alive, feeling the pulsation. We'll be hearing many voices today, many personal stories, many sharings of your experiences with her during her precious life and your life with her. And we'll be getting a fabric of the flavor of the beauty of a life well lived. The rich fabric of her life that has been dedicated to the service of truthful wakefulness and conscious evolution. We're surrounding Yolanda with our tender hearts, our loving prayers, our well wishes and intentions that her soul's forward journey would be a very good one. Full inhales, full exhales. We are here, along with the non-physical beings of light who are her guardians, assisting her and ferrying her across the waters. Welcoming her soul as a revered one who has lived her earthly life well. Particularly present here is Ramana Maharshi with his clear, deep, still, quintessential presence. And Anandamaima with the delicacy and exquisiteness of her tender, utmost tenderly love. Yolande wore a golden pearl at her heart center for many, many years. Gold is the essence of truth. And her true north sense, her love of truth, was and is strong. Yolande's physical body is shed, but her light body glows with brilliant luminosity. And her loving presence is palpably felt. She is a radiantly awake being, a luminous spirit glowing with her love of truth. The portal between realms is open and permeable. There's a recognition that all is truly well. And no fear for what awaits us, each and all. Her soul's deep resting comes gracefully, easefully, thankfully, delightfully. A sublime freedom beyond the constraints of this physical existence. There's an open passageway now between her heart and ours, her heart and yours. She's poised now, standing at the doorway between realms, offering us a showering of blessings, raining upon our hearts, our souls, and our practical lives. As we are here today to support her soul's forward journey, so is she here blessing us, continuing to serve by honoring us with her blessings of radiance and grace, and offering support for each of our individual souls' personal journeys. It's a spiraling exchange of blessings. We encircle her, she encircles us. It's a co-emergence of consciousness, a giving and receiving of love's beauty and bounty. Within the intimacy and profundity of still, silent source. So as we prepare to meditate together, feeling your feet upon the earth, your breath in the belly, aligning of your centers, your connection with your full heart, and sensing the love that brought you here today, your personal connection to our beloved Yolanda. So we'll sit together for a few minutes in meditation. I'll ring the gong to begin and to end. So just following the sound inward, towards the silence, towards the peace, and simply abiding here.
Anthony De Andrade, Yolanda's husband, will speak next.
Can you hear me? Well, we'll have to see if I speak or cry. We may be in for some stormy weather here. Is this good? So welcome everybody, and welcome all the Zoom folk. We are meeting after that beautiful invocation of Malaya's. That certainly got the tears flowing. Thank you, Malaya. We are meeting in a gathering of love for Yolanda. It feels very, very strange to think about the enormity of the fact that she is gone. That fact is huge beyond measure. Yolanda is all of a sudden gone. Or is she? We were married for 30 years, barely apart all that time, since we both worked mostly from home. We had such similar tastes in places to stay, in houses, in how to decorate them, in food, in music, and concerts. And above all, in our spiritual involvements and responses. We vibrated in similar ways to teachings and also differently, but with great compatibility. She had a fabulous eye for beauty. She created lovely paintings. She was a great decorator of homes, the furniture, the wall colors, the, the artwork on the walls. The tears are lovely, but it makes it hard to say things, so excuse me. She selected beautiful clothes, would go to a store and instantly spot the interesting items. I won't say more about the lovely arc of her life. Our dear friend Emma will tell you about that, as it encompassed many things. As it happened, I sold my business of over 30 years in mid-February. That was a grace that we expected would open up new vistas for us. Well, it was a very, very fierce grace. It was a fierce grace. What it did instead was it enabled me to devote full time to Yolanda after her cancer was discovered. Now she is gone, and there are tears when the love for her arises powerfully, triggered by almost anything. It is the love that brings the tears, not the missing her. The funny thing is that, in fact, I do not feel her as being gone. I feel her as still very much with me in a direct, simple way in my heart and solar plexus. She is right here, one with me. That is one of the ways I feel her. Right here. It's a lovely feeling of no distance. And then there is the bigger way I sense her, tuning into her in another realm. She expresses a joy, a radiant happiness, such exquisite love, so much clarity and freedom, such freedom. She is now Yolanda in full glorious bloom. She really feels transformed, but still Yolanda. You know, and I can feel her now. She's this super Yolanda. There's that Yolanda feeling. You probably feel her in the UK as well, or India, or wherever you are. There is no distance for her. And as I feel her now, I can feel her love. She really is there's so much love. I think she showed us all something through her process, and I am the only one who saw it close hand. So I want to say a few things about what she showed us about how to die. First off, she had no doubt. Once she heard the news that she did not want to extend her life for a few added months at the expense of considerable added suffering. No chemo. And the whole family supported that. She did need our love to make the process work as well as it did. I want to thank those of you who poured out your love to her as soon as you heard the news of your cancer. And there were many, many, many of you. Yolanda was very, very touched by all the emails she received. There were so many eloquent, heartfelt emails. Those emails were the initial expression of an ongoing, steady stream of love and support that kept going through her process. On a personal level, I did not know, in fact had no clue, that I could feel so much exquisite love flow through me and come back from her, and come back from her. The room where she was sick was filled with love, dripping with love. My cells were filled with love. And I am very grateful for that. It was deeply wonderful to be part of her process. The intimate, sacred process. She said many times, that this cancer increased the flow of love in the world. and that thrilled her. Your love flowed from all over the planet. Hamid graciously came to visit a week before she died. He put his hand on her forehead, gave her his blessings, and asked for hers. She is a channel for the expression of divine will. She had an unconditional surrender to what was happening and what was needed. For example, once she heard about the no eating, no drinking approach to hasten the process, she jumped on it. She was determined. For example, she could forget and get confused and ask, why can I not have some water? I had the role of explaining that and explaining she could change her mind any time. Once she was reminded why, there was instant resolve to keep going. And she immediately moved on from that instinctive wish for water. I could sense that she had internal processes going on that were focused, and she did not verbalize. She was very much in touch with Ramana and Ananda Mahima. There was tremendous sacredness in the room, with the exquisite golden presence of Ramana and the oh so tender, tender love of Ananda Mahima. I want to thank Patrick for his support. He will speak later. He had several long Zoom sessions with us and with her alone. He separately explained to me about the walls of the mind crumbling as part of the process, and not to be alarmed by that happening. That was part of all karmas being worked out. There was one particular flow she had, a spontaneous, completely uncontrolled flow of consciousness, where she weaved together an amazing expression of a deep understanding of people's motives from the past and her own part in what happened, leading to forgiving them and forgiving herself. It was an intricate, amazing process to listen to and witness. It focused on deep feelings and motivations of the people involved in the events, not the facts. She was focused on the deep feelings and motivations. It went on for hours. It was a weave of threads of particular people and events from decades ago and more recently. The threads were interwoven. One could come back 10 minutes later, just where it had been left. Then maybe 5 minutes later, still intact, and back again later. Meanwhile, other threads were unfolding. Each thread very recognizable and leading to resolutions and forgiveness. She also resolved past lives with horrific deaths at other times. She was a master of feeling. The room where she left this plane continues to feel sacred.
We're going to transition now to some Zoom. This will be led by Sherry Anderson. who is a dear friend and colleague of Yolanda's.
The next speaker will be Hamid Ali, the founder of the Diamond Approach Path. Yolanda and Anthony have been students of the Diamond Approach Path since 1989, and Yolanda has been a teacher for 20 years. So, Hamid, you'll be unmuted.
Okay, I'm here. Well, hello everybody. Feels good to see everybody here. Many friends, many family. And have a few things to share with you about my experience of Yolanda. We had more communications after she got sick, actually. We had some before, but after she found out she was sick, I was there with her team teacher where she announced about her cancer. It was a surprise for all of us. But anyway, we started communicating more. And one of the things she told me is that the beginning of her life when she was a kid, it was difficult for her to be in the world. She didn't feel she belonged there. She felt she's come from some other place and that it's not exactly her world, but finally she did get in, did manage to be in the world and live a life, full life, as many have talked about and mentioned. Which then brings in the time when I visited her on July 3rd. She had thought she was going to pass on July 4th. So I went July 3rd, with a friend, Scott Layton. An interesting thing I noticed, because I've been with many people, many individuals who were on their deathbed, the last weeks or days of their life before they pass on. She has a distinctive difference I notice about her. First of all, that both Anthony and the people who are taking care of her, they did a good job of managing her pain. She wasn't really much pain. She seemed to be free to experience herself. But she was alert, she was awake, so we were able to talk and communicate. So that was a nice thing because most people at that time, they're struggling with the pain, the physical discomfort and difficulties, and the physical is overriding usually for most people. For her, the physical wasn't overriding. Her inner experience, her perception was most dominant. And it wasn't just most dominant, it was obviously she wasn't struggling. People struggle physically, emotionally. There was no struggle. I didn't see a struggle there. She was reconciled to the fact that she's leaving. In fact, she wanted to. And she said she's going to where she came from. That was her expression. So for her, it wasn't an unwelcome thing. Although I know it must have been quite a shock, a disappointment for her and for Anthony when they discovered the cancer, because they were just preparing to have live their life and freer than before and travel and all that. So That happens sometimes for people when they're prepared. At that point, something happened. But she was obviously accepted it and embraced it, embraced the fact that she's leaving. And the other thing beside that is that when talking, it was her, Anthony, Scott, and myself in the room. And she was talking, and I could tell she has stream of consciousness, talking about things from the past, people, and then come to the present, and our experience, our experience. They were all mixed together. But the interesting thing is that she was happy. She was happy, and she was joking, sense of humor, and it didn't feel like somebody was dying. Like I've seen with many people who are in that transition period, it didn't seem like it seemed like she was going to go on a trip. Sort of be an interesting journey, which is a good thing to see because. And it's good for all of us to know that's possible. But I think that was made possible by the fact that hospice and with Anthony attention, they managed her pain in such a way that it really worked for her not to be struggling with pain and at the same time to be alert and be able to communicate, hear, and talk. It was good to see that. Like it's so I thought of it since then that Yolanda had a good death. So that I call a good death in the sense that she wasn't regretting it, she was embracing it, she wasn't struggling, she was accepting, she was embracing, and she was happy, enjoying both what she was experiencing and the interaction with others. And of course, she's leaving many people she loves, who love her. Many friends, many family. And so, after she passed on, I think my sense became clear to her. She is leaving people she loved, and that's when I seemed she was having some grief about that, some sadness because she did, leaving somebody you love, regardless how happy you are, it's still a grief, because that will be the end in some way. Even though she might be present now, she won't be present after a while. She will go on her way. So I remember telling her one of our conversations, because she talked to me about Ramana Maharshi that she got connected with, because she went to India and they bought a house and they go there every year, and she's very much connected. And she came to visit me here in my office one time, this office, telling me about her journey sitting in the cave that Ramana was in. And actually, by her coming here, she brought Ramana with her. We got to meet Maharshi, and which started an interesting conversation. But anyway, I told her, because her connection, told her, I'm communicating with you, I'll help you now, but after you pass, I'm going to hand you over to him, to Raman. And she was very happy with that. And it seems that's what's actually happening. And he doesn't need other helps. He's enough. Because she's connected to him. She's not connected to some light beings or anything like that. That's irrelevant actually for her relationship with Ramana. So, and one thing that was mentioned is that her love for the truth. And one thing I feel that because of her love for the truth, all of us need to recognize the truth of our relationship with her, because she felt it will be a release, that she did feel a release and relief by leaving the body. But the release will have to be also emotional, and will have to happen from her side and from our side. And our side is the more we know what our relationship is to her, that will be the truth that she loves, that will release her. And that means the harmonious time and the conflictual times. All of it, whatever is there. So I do wish her well. I'm around if she ever wants to come for a visit or have a question or need help, but I think she's doing fine. And I'm happy to see that all the people she has established a relationship with, she's sort of an international citizen of the world. Now she's added another world as a citizen. So I do feel our loving connection, and that's important, for both of us. So that's what I wanted to say. Just part of what I can say. Leave it for the others to fill in more things.
Thank you so much, Hamid. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Our next speaker is Emma Hummelin, who's going to describe more of Yolanda's life journey. Emma's been a friend of Yolanda's since 2007, as well as her colleague in the Diamond Approach path. She remembers how Yolanda came to sit next to her in the old Ridwan Church in Berkeley because she wanted to have more contact with the newly ordained Dutch teachers. Soon it turned out they both felt a deep connection and love for the sacred place in India, Tiruvannamalai, Tiru for short. And so from 2011 on, they spent most of their time together in Anthony and Yolanda's home in India, where the three of them lived for 2 months each winter. Emma and Yolanda were both born in the Netherlands. They both had a strong love for India and its sacred atmosphere, and they both were steeped in the Diamond Approach path. They got to know each other well over the last 13 years and explored a lot. They also met with new friends in Tiruvannamalai who, it turned out, were also interested in the Diamond Approach. Emma lives and works in the Netherlands, and she'll speak now. You can just go ahead, Emma.
Thank you, Sherry. I still feel full of the speakers who have spoken before and deeply touched. And it's an honor for me to be here with you all and to feel our deep connection in our love for Yolanda. Anthony asked me to give an overview of Yolanda's life's journey, which will reflect more about the person she was and the life she lived. Although I think you have a good picture in the meantime by what has been said, but it does feel like a privilege to do so. And I will start with something that Mirel and Anouk have asked me to read about her life in Holland before she went to the US. That was the first 40 years of her life. So I'll just read out what they have written up. Mom was born in Scheveningen in Holland. She moved to Hengelo when she was still quite young. She was the first daughter in a family of 6 kids. She was known as a happy little one, always singing at the bike seat at the front of her dad's bike. Especially her brothers, Peter and Hans, were her buddies. And when they were still little, they got in a lot of mischief together, like taking the train to Enschede to see their oma when they were still very small. And they didn't tell anyone. After high school, Mom became a kindergarten teacher, and she married Herman and moved to Reewijk, first in an apartment and then the house on the Pelkruidlaan. She became a mom when she was 23 and began further studies with a newborn, which was the start of a lifetime of studying and learning. When she was 25, her second daughter was born. In 76, the family moved back to the eastern part of Holland, close to the family, when Herman started working internal at the family business. The family had now expanded with Carlo, the black poodle, who had a fondness of chewing through car seat belts. The big house on the Moorshoekweg had a lot of space and a lot of mysteries, such as the winter without electricity, until Hans figured it out, how it could work, and where the access to the septic tank was under the newly paved garage. There was also a hidden attic and many mysterious nooks and crannies that only our lovely cat Lotje got to explore. Many, many beautiful memories were created sitting by the pool in the summer and trying to play ice hockey in the winter when the pool was frozen. And there were many celebrations with friends from the West, the country, summer pool parties, and whole class sleeping in tents parties for birthdays. Summer vacations were spent camping in Sweden, sometimes with the family, but sometimes with Mom's brother and sister. There was the famous trip where Mom and Peter somehow managed to drive past the rest of the group who were getting gas, and we all lost track of each other for a while. How did we manage that without cell phones? Mom worked as a multimedia curriculum developer. There was the development of the farm series where Anouk and Mirel, her daughters, listened to countless versions of the cows getting milked. In order to determine the right slides, the distribution of information, and the speed. Oh, those cows were getting milked. In 82, the big house on the Morshoekweg was sold, and the family moved into a house in the Frank Sandmanstraat. It wasn't the best fit. It was a very keurige neighborhood, and plans were born to buy a farm with some land with friends. After this in-between stage, while finalizing the sale of the farm in Borne, the families all moved together to the Bongard. A large-scale construction project was started where the barn and the pigsty were converted to modern living quarters, as well as a full renovation of the original farmhouse. Mom quit her job to oversee all the construction on the farm and to keep the family going. Once the construction was done, a large organic garden was put in, with over 75 fruit trees and yards of berries. Mom really got into pruning. In 86, Mom attended a conference in Hawaii, and with this, a new phase of her life began. The following year, she divorced Herman, and she moved to Mill Valley in California to pursue her dream of getting her psychology master's degree at JFK University, the forefront of psychology studies at the time. So with that move, the first part of her life came to a completion, and a whole new life she started that in California, with many more opportunities to come. So I will continue with a short overview of the life after her move to California onwards. And this came in together in collaboration with Anthony and includes his input. I'm going to address you, Yolanda, directly. It feels more personal to me than to talk about you. Dearest Yolanda, when we met in Berkeley, we could not intuit how our lives would deeply connect in India, of all places. I feel a deep gratitude for our friendship, your support, your love, your generosity of heart and spirit. You have always been inspiring me in various ways, and I will say a few more personal words in the end. You always have been interested in spiritual orientations from very early on. For instance, you were talking a lot about how fascinated you had been about reading the book of the Masters of the Far East, which you read many times over the years, already in Holland, back at that time. It got me very curious, and I got a taste, and it's still on my book list. That book connected you to the lives of the masters who lived in the Himalayas, and you always have hoped to go there one time. Your spiritual life deepened over the many years, and after a few years in California, you came across the Diamond Approach and you joined a group there. And shortly after, you met Anthony, who had independently of you also joined the Diamond Approach. I think you found that out while you were in a nightclub, dancing, sharing about the Diamond Approach on a very noisy dance floor. Your curiosity and your love to know the truth has always been a guiding principle for you. And you were aligned and committed to delving deep into all the nooks and crannies of your soul and its history. You didn't leave a stone unturned, even when it was difficult to look it into the face. You had a lot of courage in that way. Eventually, you became a teacher of the Diamond Approach after completing the teacher's training. But earlier on in 1996, an important event took place, which started another chapter in your life, and it was during another journey. And while writing this, I found that there's been a lot of journeys some journeys in your life. I think 3 were very incremental into the turns in your life. So this was the second one. The first one was the one to Hawaii. This was in 96 there, where you and Yolanda traveled to India to visit his family in Bombay. And you had planned to travel along 6 different ashrams and sacred places in India after the family visit. However, right at the first destination, you were what you called stopped in your tracks. And both of you did not have any wish to continue your initial plans. The place that stopped you was the holy mountain of Arunachala, where Ramana Maharshi, a widely revered and well-known saint in India, lived his life till he died in 1950. Both of you were deeply moved and impacted by the sacredness and the presence that is still so palpable there at the foot of the mountain Arunachala, which means the red fiery hill. For Indians, this mountain is holy since millennia. And in the ashram where Ramana Maharshi gave darshan and received visitors from all over the planet, often in deep silence, his presence is still palpable today. One is pulled automatically in a deep silence or in meditation, sitting there. And the ashram still attracts many Indians and non-Indians. After that year, 1996, you revisited the place a couple of times. And it was in 2007 that Anthony developed a deep desire to build a house for you both there. At that time, you lived in Maui and had an apartment in the south of France where Muriel lived with her family, as well as an apartment in London where Anouk lived with her children. And you felt initially resistance to the idea. I remember talking about it on the deck in Maui with you. And you felt like, oh no, not another house to keep up with. So although the idea was a challenge for you, you wanted to give Anthony the opportunity that he clearly wanted so dearly. And you found a good architect, and a lovely, spacious house was finally built and ready to be lived in from 2011 on. The name of the house is Sangam. Sangam in Sanskrit means confluence. It's a word used for the confluence, the coming together of 2 major Indian rivers, the Ganges and the Yamuna, and then flowing as one big river onwards. And this name was chosen to reflect it being a meeting place of the house being a meeting place of friends and people with their different spiritual backgrounds to come together in one stream of consciousness. Gatherings and sometimes concerts were held there, dinners with friends. A number of your friends, Yolanda from California, came over to visit, and you and I did an introductory of the diamond approach with a group of nearly 20 interested people. And many of them are here present today. You loved being in the house and called the house your temple. It was a very sacred place to you. And you spent your days mostly inside and especially loved to sit up on the roof of the house, which has an excellent view on the mountain. The mountain you experienced as a very alive presence, very alive presence. You spent many hours in the house going inward, meditating, inquiring, journaling, and especially reading and studying. You lived the life of a mystic in that way, one-pointedly dedicated to your inner process, always loving to find out about the truth of your experience and studying to understand more. Each time you walked on the mountain, you was aware of an overall field of transparency. Other times you experienced how, as you walked on the mountain, the veils would thin before your eyes, as you had seen Jesus there. The veils were lifted, you said, and another time you would see Ramana Maharshi on a walk on the hill. And you shared it in a very simple way, but we got the flavor of what that was like for you. At the same time, you were living a life in the world. By 2010, you had 4 granddaughters, 2 living in London and 2 in Marin County. And you kept connected with them through visits to London a few times a year, which eventually you combined with your becoming a member of the UK 3 group in England, group of the Diamond Approach. You had many students who loved to work with you, and you loved dearly. And in 2014, Anthony and you moved back from Maui to Marin, California. With your open and curious mind, you always kept being interested in other spiritual orientations. And you were especially attracted to a teaching which is called the Gene Keys, which came as a downloaded teaching to an Englishman called Richard Rudd. And we are happy that Richard himself will also speak later on. And during the last 8 years, you explored this teaching in a deep way. And it helped you understand particular personal elements in deeper ways, particularly your gifts that are related to particular essential qualities in your personal design. You were able to integrate all these teachings in a seamless way, deeply understanding each. While the Diamond Approach was your primary path, there were also astrology, tarot, and others. Ramana, as we have heard already, is your guru, and his presence influenced how you brought all the teaching to your students and also into the world. During the last few years, this experience deepened more and more. Then in 2018, a lifelong wish of you came to fulfillment during yet another journey. Since reading the book of the Masters of the Far East back in Holland, I had always felt drawn to the Himalayas. and hope to go there. And at the occasion of your 70th birthday, you and Anthony undertook the journey north. There, another event happened that had a big impact on you in connection with a famous woman saint who died in 82 called Ananda Mai Ma. And she has been referred to by others earlier today. One evening after a visit in her ashram, close to Rishikesh, Yolanda experienced a circle of what she would call angelic beings who welcomed her and included her in their circle. She recognized them and they recognized her, and they deeply welcomed her. After that experience, she often spoke of the Garden of Eden, and she felt that this garden is what the world is ultimately bound to be. So I will add a few personal words before I end. Dearest Yolanda, your generosity of heart and spirit has taught me to receive, welcoming your invitations, and it had a deep healing effect on me personally. It was really wonderful to receive and really feel so welcomed for over such a period of time in your house in India, both from you and Anthony. I always felt a deep receptivity in you. Your open-mindedness left you very receptive to everything. Nothing was weird. So that made me free to talk about many different things without inhibition. Your open-mindedness was amazing and was inspiring also. One of the things that came up regularly between us was how the war had impacted both our souls. Your father had worked in a German labor camp, and there was a deep understanding mutually of the impact on our souls from that and on the collective field in the Netherlands after the war. Your dedication to the work has touched me deeply. No stone was left unturned, and you had a lot of courage. You were unflinching in the face of challenges. And I learned a lot from you in that way, and it has inspired me a lot to follow your example, staying on course no matter what it is. So you have been a great inspiration for me over the years in your dedication to your inner journey. It was a great pleasure to walk the path together with you, dear friend. I remember fondly our talks on the pool and our walks, our eating croissants, sitting on the floor, chatting, and also the 10 minutes we did every evening with Anthony, the three of us, 10 minutes inquiry. I love you dearly. The love will remain, and I thank you deeply and wish you well on your journey onwards. Go well. Be blessed. Love. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. The next speaker will be Bhakti, and she's going to introduce Patrick Connor. Bhakti, will you unmute and begin? Well, Patrick, it looks like Bhakti's having some difficulty with the sound. So maybe I could just say a few words about you that I know from your friends and from Anthony and Bhakti. They say that your life is devoted to the liberation of the human spirit. And Yolanda and Anthony met Patrick in Tiruvannamalai through their friend Bhakti. As Anthony put it, they were struck by how Patrick radiates a connection to divine will and purity. Patrick will chant the Triambakam mantra for our service today.
Thank you, Sherry. I just want to say a few words. First of all, just to say how grateful I am to have had the chance to bear witness in quite a close way to Yolanda's process and to have stood with her as she prepared to make a very conscious exit from the body in her final weeks. This process is not easy, especially if there is pain or illness, even if there is a very bright awareness that the soul does not die. And I want to acknowledge her brilliant, caring heart, her deep love for truth, her courageous, joyful, playful spirit, and a kind of childlike openness in her to ever-expanding learning and discovery of the realms of spirit and the dimensions of light. It's that kind of wise, innocent openness that is the hallmark of all true teachers. I also want to briefly acknowledge and pay tribute to you, Anthony, for your steadfastness and your unflinching, loving care, which I've witnessed at very close quarters, for holding such tender, gentle, generous heart space for her during this powerful and challenging time in the run-up to her transition. In some of our final sessions, she made it very clear to me that she couldn't have been freed up to give her focus to the light the way that she did without the very vital role that you were playing by her side, and without your presence and your tremendously loving, unconditional heart. I want to chant the Mahamrityunjaya mantra, known otherwise as the Triambakam mantra. It's a very special mantra. It's one of the great ancient Vedic mantras. It's known as the death-conquering mantra. It is said to bestow the virtues and capacities of the Supreme Being, the Supreme Consciousness, as well as bringing on greater courage and fearlessness in the face of all obstacles. It's an especially powerful healing mantra, and it's used at the time of the transition of another soul to support the transformation and transmutation of everything associated with death into light. It is, in that sense, a liberation mantra, a mantra that they describe as a moksha mantra, a mantra for the supreme liberation of the soul. So in chanting it for another, as we're going to do here today, at this powerful moment in Yolanda's process, it's a way to express our most heartfelt prayer for her soul, to fly free and to soar on wings of light and joy and liberation on her onward journey. So I'd like to invite you to join me. Some of you know this mantra, others of you may not, in which case feel free simply to hold your heart in alignment with this intention. We chant this with all our heart, with all our love, with all our dedication, and with our deepest gratitude for the gift of knowing you, Yolanda, and our intention for you to receive the highest blessings possible from the realms of light. I will chant it 7 times, one for each of the planes of existence. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amrita. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amrita. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amrita. You may want to unmute yourself, to mute yourself, if that feels good to you. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amrita. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amrita. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amrita. And one more time to complete this offering of love and dedication. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amrita. I just want to say to you both, Yolanda and Anthony, I love you both very much and thank you for the opportunity to participate in this sacred moment and to pay tribute to your life.
Thank you so much, Patrick. It's beautiful. Our next speaker is Richard Rudd. Richard is a teacher, a mystic, and an award-winning poet. As Emma mentioned, his sacred teachings that have been entrusted to him have been very important to Anthony.
I did, Bunky. Now I'm muted.
They've been very important to Anthony and Yolanda. The wisdom of the gene keys. So, Richard, will you please go ahead?
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be asked to speak here. And in a way, I think I'm representing a whole raft of people and friends of Yolanda around the world. She was a very treasured member of our circle of light. And I know that there are many Gene Keys community members all over the world who sending her love and will be continuing to do so. I saw Yolanda about 2 weeks before she passed, and we spoke together for an hour or so on Zoom. And she was incredibly lucid, had this really sharp wit and mind and will, and also, deep softness of heart. And I kind of just let her flow, and was amazing. It was what Anthony was saying. She was weaving together many stories from her life, and I could it was a privilege to witness her resolving threads as part of her life and letting go of things and forgiving. And it was part of, I guess, what I call compassionate closure. That's what she was involved in. I think she was a master of that. She gave a master class in that. And also I'd like to honor you, Anthony. You're a marvel, I think, the way you've been holding her through these final weeks and months. It was incredibly inspiring and profound. And I'm sure many of us can feel her great love and gratitude pouring out to you. And I hope that your ongoing journey from here is filled with light. And I know that she will be walking beside you. And I also want to express my love to Yolanda's family all around the world. And even though I'm a poet myself, I'd like to read some words of light for you, Yolanda, and but they're not my own. And I know you'll love them. They're by Rabindranath Tagore, and it seems very fitting that an Indian mystic should speak through me, at least here today. So thank you, Yolanda, for your presence, for your love and your truth, and I wish you farewell on the next phase of your journey. From Rabindranath, from Gitanjali. Light, my light, the world-filling light, the eye-kissing light, heart-sweetening light. Ah, the light dances, my darling, at the center of my life. The light strikes, my darling, the chords of my love. The sky opens, the wind runs wild, laughter passes over the earth. The butterflies spread their sails on the sea of light. Lilies and jasmines surge up on the crest of the waves of light. The light is shattered into gold on every cloud, my darling, and it scatters gems in profusion. Mirth spreads from leaf to leaf, my darling, and gladness without measure. The heavens river has drowned its banks and the flood of joy is abroad. Let all the strains of joy mingle in my last song, the joy that makes the earth flow over in the riotous excess of the grass, the joy that sets the twin brothers' life and death dancing over the wide world, the joy that sweeps in with the tempest, shaking and waking all life with laughter, the joy that sits still with its tears on the open red lotus of pain, and the joy that throws everything it has upon the dust and knows not a word. Yes, I know, this is nothing but thy love, O beloved of my heart, this golden light that dances upon the leaves, these idle clouds sailing across the sky, this passing breeze leaving its coolness upon my forehead. The morning light has flooded my eyes. This is thy message to my heart. Thy face is bent from above. Thy eyes look down on my eyes, and my heart has touched thy feet. Many blessings to you, Yolanda, and to everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Our next speaker is Bob Ball. Bob has been Yolanda's teacher in the Diamond Approach Path for the past 7 years. Bob, would you go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Sherry. And I appreciate our all coming together here to remember Yolanda and to celebrate her life. And also thank you, Anthony, for the invitation to say a few words. And also for your steadfast devotion and support and love of Yolanda, especially in these final months. It's clear it was such an important time for her. Her process really accelerated during this time, and I was, really probably a small part in her whole process and her whole life journey. But I was happy to be able to sit with her, be with her, and work with her over these past years, and. Yeah, I think that what I want to keep this short is, first of all, because it's impossible to encompass try to really capture in a complete way anyone's life and inner journey. And But I think what stands out for me last time we spoke was she was really feeling complete, and was also really working intensely with all the nooks and crannies and sort of corners of her soul, and cleaning out and working through and freeing up whatever was, revealing itself to her in, in a way, very sincere way, and very intense and one-pointed, and her love for truth was strong, and still is. And she was feeling finished, really, feeling like she'd pretty much done what she had come here to do. And maybe not completely perfectly, it's not everything spotless, but to a large degree, she felt satisfied and fulfilled, and appreciative and grateful for her life and her process, and what has, including the challenges and the really a lot of difficulty and suffering, and but so much blessing also. And so I felt happy for her, and she felt happy, and it's mostly left with a lot of love and gratitude, and simplicity, and settledness, and I would say sort of readiness to see what's next. And of course, there's loss and grief, and that comes with the moving on, and beyond those that you love, and moving to a different kind of realm or way of being. But also a lot of readiness and sense of freedom and lightness and ease, and so I feel happy for her in that that she came to that place in her life and process, and to really open to the truth in all whatever it presents, and to follow that. And I'm sure she will continue to follow wherever the truth leads her. And I wish her well. I know we all wish her well in that process and continuing journey. So I think that's probably enough for me.
Thank you, Bob. We'll go now to Candace Harris. Candace is Yolanda's friend and colleague from the UK3 team of the Diamond Approach Path. Candace, you can go ahead.
Hello, everyone. And I think in this moment, I want to bring in the beauty and the amazing gift of being a colleague of Yolanda's in UK3, sorry. And especially to bring in the presence of Buckland Hall and the land that supported that group for all the years that we were able to meet at Buckland. I'm particularly aware of Yolanda in two ways, of you, Yolanda, in two ways. One is that we shared being mothers, and we shared being mothers of two girls, now women, and also of granddaughters. And we had many, many conversations on our walk down the Buckland Road or at the Glyphis Hotel, talking about our beautiful children and grandchildren. Their incredible aliveness and their challenges. And that heart-to-heart connection with you was incredibly supportive to me, Yolanda. So I just feel full of love for you in this moment and those times that we shared. I also want to talk about you, Yolanda, as a teacher for so many students in UK3 and your unconditional dedication and devotion to their unfolding, and how your love for them, for those of you sitting here and for others, how your love for them help them move in their process, in their knowing the truth, in their knowing reality, in their knowing being. And I am so appreciative of that gift that you gave to those students and to the group. I also want to say that we worked as team members, and several of your team members are here today with you. And in the working together as a team, as we all know, and as Hamid has said, the grit of the pearl gets rubbed. And we had together as a team the opportunity to be fellow grit pearl polishers. And also to know the love that can be experienced when we are supporting a Diamond Approach group together as one, with Tejo and Joyce and Philip and Michael and Sandy. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. I really hope I haven't forgotten anyone. But right now I'm just going to say, Yolanda, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your love. And thank you for all you gave to your students and continue to give. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Anouk De Young to speak now. Anouk is Yolanda's daughter. Sorry. Anouk De Young is Yolanda's daughter. She's going to speak now.
I agree with Anthony that speaking through tears is difficult. I'm really appreciative of everyone having said such beautiful words about my mom. And I want to welcome everybody personally and thanking everyone, in particularly my partner in crime and life partner Paul, who could not be here today because of travel restrictions, sadly. But I can feel him regardless. Mom had a love for beauty and color, and I think I'm probably the fourth person mentioned this today, and the arts. I accompanied Mom and Anthony countless times, visiting exhibitions, symphonies, dance performances all over the world, actually. From Maui and San Francisco to England, France. She would absolutely marvel and ponder color scenarios, dance patterns, and the sheer beauty it provoked. Every time Mom and Anthony came to visit me in London, we would go see the shows, plays, dances, or visit the latest exhibitions. Afterwards, any of these events were discussed at great length, often over tea, because as we all know, Mom loved her tea, nearly as much as she loved talking. I would like to share some memories from childhood that stand out to me now. Some are short little moments, seemingly unimportant at the time, and others more significant. And it's funny how the mind captures and shines light on what seems sometimes arbitrary moments, and yet they are not. Mom was very big on unstructured time and play when my sister and I were young. My sister and I had a large imagination, a large playground, which was our home and garden, and nothing ever seemed out of bounds. And it was not until I was older that I understood what freedom she gave us and what a gift to have had. She let my sister and I be independent, think on our own feet, and explore our own ideas. It seemed, as you have heard a few times already, that there were always friends and family coming along for the summer holidays, staying for sleepovers, dinners, birthdays, and events, which were celebrated in a big and colorful way. We had big birthday parties, had many of our school friends over. The 10th story I was going to mention, sleepovers in the garden, swimming from dusk till dawn. Our Oma was there to help with making endless stacks of pancakes, omelettes, or help with the mountains of laundry that we produced. I remember the countless dinner parties and late nights where we would try to hide away with friends and cousins in the faraway attic so that the adults would forget about children's bedtime. That feeling of generosity and sharing was always so omnipresent. It gave me the confidence and trust in life that as I later as an adult enjoyed. And only as an adult and a mother of children can I truly appreciate any of this and all of the above. She had a unique way of how she would make us calm after something upsetting would make us storm off, and we did do that a lot, and then return for consolation. There was a little song she used to sing whilst embracing us in a gentle hug, whilst repeating a simple and nurturing melody over and over again. My love for classical music comes from my early years. Often when we would go to sleep, the sound of Mozart, Vivaldi or Beethoven would fill the hallway and travel all the way upstairs to our bedrooms. It felt safe and like home, to such extent that when I hear some of those concertos or symphonies now, it instantly conjures a sweet feeling of home. Similarly, I have memories of Mom deeply engaged in literature from a very early age. She could often be found reading hour after hour. And my sister and I both inherited that quality from her. What I miss the most of Mom already now is her voice, her thoughts, her wisdom, her humor. She was very funny. Her laughter, her joy. She could be so funny at times. After speaking, for example, solely English for decades, Mom had this uncanny ability to interject the most spot-on Dutch expressions or sayings at the right moment, which were so on point, and it made us usually explode with laughter. As impatient as she could be at certain times, she always made generous time available to talk on the phone and later FaceTime. We spent many, many hours mulling things over from every angle, every corner. We would discuss anything as mundane or as big and bold as what was deemed necessary and appropriate in that moment. Nothing was left untouched. And after quite some time, then she would be quiet for a moment and say, Anouk or Mirel, I think we've covered it. Always with a smile and a giggle. We shared many of those smiles and those giggles, a love for beauty and color, and more than anything, love for each other. She was a visionary, a teacher, always ahead of her time, committed to a lifetime of learning and teaching. Her students were so dear to her. During the last few months, Mom received the most extraordinary collections of letters from many of them. She called them her love letters. And they were so precious, and it was special to see her through those eyes, an outpour of love and gratitude. Mom taught me many things. She taught me how to be honest and true to myself. How to verbalize my feelings, how to face my fears and live awake, how to inquire when things do not feel quite right, and how to question if I am on the right path, doing the right things to live my potential and live my best life. She and Anthony have helped me navigate to where I am today, and that is in a very good place. In her own unconventional way, Mom was our mama, and there's just no one like your own mama. She was energetic, being able to live fast when required, and taking it slow when needed. Flowing with life, as she used to say, staying in the now, and listening to what is here. And I hear those words echoing now. Dearest, beautiful Mama, we love you forever and always. You are part of us, and we are part of you. You will continue to guide us, and we will meet again. Thank you. And I'm just going to do this because it just sounds so beautiful. Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce Phil De Andrade, Anthony's sister.
Thank you. I'm Phil De Andrade. It's wonderful to be here. I feel blessed that I'm a member of Yolanda's extended family. And it was a really blessed day when Anthony and Yolanda met and decided to spend the rest of their lives together. On May the 27th, Yolanda celebrated her birthday. That was less than 2 months ago. And Sandy, my sister, who lives in Pune and is, I think, present here today, and I sent Yolanda a birthday card with haiku we had written for the occasion. These are tiny distillations of some of the thoughts we had about Yolanda, and I'd like to read them, if I may. So I wrote, "What's another year? A series of nows, news, noise, all to be cherished. Sandy and I both had separately the same image of Yolanda, and that was of a slender flower with an indomitable spirit. Life's winds may sway you, slender as a flower stalk, but you'll never break. The fighter in her has arms, but they embrace us. She shares the lute, love. And Sandy wrote, a warm, crinkled smile, kind words with Dutch inflection, Yolanda's unique charm. A slender stalk blooms, her face tilted to truth's light. Such beauty never fades. Thank you.
I'm going to say a few words. I know Yolanda to be a seeker of truth, an explorer of consciousness who eagerly braves the unknown. She's truly dedicated to her own and others' ongoing unfoldment to true nature. Yolanda came into my life 30 years ago, shortly after I met my husband, David, who was Anthony's brother. Yolanda is the older sister I never had. She's been a confidant, a spiritual guide, a teacher, a mentor. We have painted together, walked together, cooked together, traveled together, inquired together. We initially bonded in 1991 over dating and subsequently marrying into the De Andrade tribe. We have navigated some of the family and cultural idiosyncrasies, arm in arm. My earliest memory of Yolanda was over dinner when David was living in Mill Valley. Anthony and maybe Phil were there too. I was anxious about meeting them all. David had made a pot of his infamous chicken curry. This was in his days of cooking with the belief that no curry was complete without a tablespoon or two of cayenne pepper. That's a lot of spice. Way too much for Yolanda's and my Western tastes. And so our bond was born. Yolanda has nudged me along my path, guiding me with a trail of breadcrumbs, at times to places, both inner and outer, that I never would have said yes to. She went to grad school, I went to grad school. They bought a house in Hawaii. We bought a cottage down the street. She was in the Diamond Approach. I joined the Diamond Approach. They went to Ramana Maharshi's ashram. We went to Ramana Maharshi's ashram. After they bought their house on Kaliki Road in Maui, David and I became frequent visitors. Eventually, we even bought a little cottage a few yards down the road. It was there that Yolanda shared her love of painting with me and inspired me to use painting to access a deeper sense of self. It was there that I witnessed her inspiring metamorphosis, what she called the healing journey of Maui. On David and my first trip to Ramana Maharshi's ashram, we stayed on site at the ashram in rustic cottages right next door to Anthony and Yolanda. In the mornings, Anthony and David would walk to the dining hall, sit on the floor in front of a banana leaf, and eat a breakfast with their fingers of idlis, sambar, and pongal. Yolanda and I would walk across the street to the German bakery for tea and toast. We would spend some afternoons crocheting together while sitting on the veranda, entertained by mischievous monkeys trying to snatch anything that looked like food. At dinner, we would join Anthony and David cross-legged on the floor with the banana leaf in front of us, piled high with rice and dal, served out of buckets. Yolanda and I would eat our servings with the spoons that Yolanda had said I should be sure to bring. Another time we were in Bombay together, having afternoon tea on the lawn at the cricket club, where we often stayed. Bombay, as you may know, has one of the highest levels of air pollution in the world. I was having difficulties with certain aspects of traveling in India, and she turned to me and said, "Breathe, Claire, breathe. Bad air is better than no air." I have returned to this moment many times in my life. Several months after my twins, David's and my twins, were born, I was really overwhelmed and feeling ever so slightly psychotic. Yolanda looked at me, and she looked at the infants and said, "I think you could really use a teacher now. Would you like me to find one?" And thus began my journey in the Diamond Approach, for which I will forever be grateful. Yolanda, for a couple of years, had suggested that I come to Tiru for a retreat, one without David and the kids. I was able to join Yolanda and Anthony for 9 days in Tiru, just in 2020, right before the pandemic. This was truly a gift I will never forget. Some years ago, Yolanda said to me, and I quote, "I'm this ever-changing, ongoing soul that is again in a cycle of not knowing. My soul just keeps moving. As I am looking at endings, there are new beginnings that look like wide open space and unknown and new possibilities." I love you, Yolanda, and may you continue to travel those wide open skies and be blessed in your unfoldment. I'd now like to introduce Regina Riley, who's been for many decades a soul sister, playmate, fellow student on the path of truth, and lover of deep experiences together.
Good morning. It's a deep pleasure to be with the lovers and colleagues and friends and playmates of Yolanda and Anthony. At my age, I didn't think that I'd be speaking at Yolanda's memorial service. And I'm very grateful to be here to be able to do this. So I would like to call you forth, you might say, Yolanda, I know you're here, but I don't want to speak about you. I want to speak to you today. We've walked together on the path of service, both of us enjoying that very deep commitment in our souls. I worked with Yolanda. We worked together, you might say, with clients for many years, trying to figure out the mystery of how the person is deeply and how the relationship is in a healing contract. We also work together that way with students in the Diamond Approach. But in that process, the student comes to know the teacher, and the teacher comes to know the student. So we both deepened and came very close together in those processes. So two qualities stand out that I just want to mention today. You've already heard so much wonderful information about Yolanda. But I want to mention two things that stand out with me. So Yolanda, listen to this. One is paradox, and the other is the mystery. The closer we would delve into anything with client or student, the more and more we would see the paradox. We would often recognize that the truth was something that we could kind of intuit, but then we'd wind up kind of shrugging our shoulders and recognizing that the most we could do would be to love that whole situation, including the person. So rather than try to explain any of that, I found a poem that I'd like to read by Thomas Merton that really kind of gets the flavor of the paradox. I assume you might know that Thomas Merton was a monk in the monastery in the United States. He finally came out of the monastery, went into the world, and went to Tibet. As I understand it, plugged in or turned on a fan and was electrocuted. So he went out quickly with a great deal of energy, obviously, not all his. So here's the poem. If I never become what I've meant to be, but always remain what I am not, I shall spend eternity contradicting myself. By being at once something and nothing, a life that wants to live and is dead, a death that wants to be dead and cannot quite achieve its own death because it still has to exist. That's Thomas Merton. But it also has the kind of depth that Yolanda had. Like there is no real answer. There's only the opening of the heart. And the more fully you can just hold what is there, that's really the best we can do for each other in many ways. And she got very good at it. Likewise, love for the mystery was so alive in you, Yolanda, always, and it deepened and deepened every day, every year, every situation. Her heart and her soul grew more and more full, even in the face of the cancer. Her acceptance and her allowing of whatever was going to happen, her openness to move into the unknown, was exemplary in my experience. She surrendered to the universal will daily and faced into what was happening with her body and her soul. And her light grew visibly brighter and softer and more radiant. So your love is here with us now, Yolanda, and I found a poem that I really believe could be a prayer of yours now. And it's written by a man named Malcolm Schloss, whom I don't know. But it seemed to me it might be a prayer that you might have uttered to the beloved from your heart and from your love of freedom. If only I could be reborn of thee, and all my life could flame again with light, and all my being thrill with energy, released to do thy will and give delight. If thoughtless of the self, I could be free to let thy being flower and not care if any sipped thy nectar like a bee, or came to breathe thy fragrance in the air. If I could be content to let thy seeds die stillborn, if thou wouldst, in my earth, and not care for the wanderers whose needs might find satisfaction in their birth, thy will could flow from birth to death through me, and only know the joy of being free. Yolanda, you are free now in ways we can only intuit. We will never stop loving you, and ask only that you don't forget us as you move in to your next journey. Amen.
Thank you, Regina. I'd like to now introduce Deborah De Marais. Deborah is a true soul sister, friend, playmate, colleague, explorer of astrology and universes together, and close family, personal friend for many wonderful decades. Deborah.
Hi. I'm feeling really connected to each one of you and those of you on Zoom, and are being lovers with and of Yolanda. As I've been sitting here feeling and experiencing all the beautiful expressions of who she is and how her life was lived, I've been feeling and experiencing a growing light, and it's getting brighter. And the love that was here as I walked in, and many commented on the ground that this beautiful place exudes, I started noticing that there were birds. There's been crows that are flying around outside, circling. Then just a few minutes ago, some people noticed a butterfly flew in the room and flew back out. And I was like, hi, you're here, which we know that she's here. And she was here in her journey and her worldliness and her spiritual undertaking and seeking and truth traveling, she was here. And part of what was so fascinating about her is she was an air sign. She loved astrology. She talked about astrology all the time. We were very close in that. And we all know she was kind of light. I don't mean light, I mean light. Like she was airy, it wasn't the easiest thing, as Hamid said, for her to get here. And she got here. I'm feeling it's a light, happy, bubbly quality that you just had to laugh. I had to laugh. We laughed together a lot, Yolanda. We giggled. It was very fun. It was a very, very fun, many, many, many decades journey. And one of the things, again, that I'm appreciating is Yolanda and I, one thing we had in common was in our childhoods, we had not felt a part of many times of the family in certain ways. And it's been a journey for her, along with me, to work those places. Yolanda's journey of that, there are two things I want to say about it. One is she didn't exclude. It's part of the reason that we're all really feeling what we're feeling here today, and all of the people that are here together on Zoom, is the inclusion and the openness she had for all the colors, which is her painting. She loved color. She was color. And that inclusion for her, one of the things she and I talked about closer to her death were these letters that you all were sending from around the world in the emails. And while she kept talking and knowing there's nothing but love, there's nothing but love all the time, there's nothing but love is all there is, there's nothing but love. After those letters, we talked about the shift in her consciousness that didn't have that place anymore, that impression of some way, of something that maybe isn't loved. It was gone. And it shot her, as far as I saw, it shot her even more deeply into this journey of her dying. And that's the other thing I just want to name too, is the journey of her dying was extraordinary, as many of us know. To transmute, to have read the teachings of many teachers and to have followed this path for so many years, and to watch and to be with a close personal friend who actually did it, who actually transmuted and left in a way where there was really light. That's what was left. And I take that as inspiring and as the gift to all of us. We have, she and I, you and I, have held hands, rock solid in support, for so long, whether it's been in person or many, many, many distances apart. And I know that we will all continue to feel the blessing of the example of your life and of your death and of the love. The love, and I love you, as you know, I love you dearly.
Thank you, Deborah. I'd now like to invite anyone in this room that would like to say a few words about Yolanda or about what they're experiencing to come up. We're going to move back to Zoom. There's a few people on Zoom that have something they'd like to share. Sherry.
We have some scheduled speakers who will speak on Zoom now, and then we'll see if there's time and open the space for others. So we'll see how our time goes today. Our first speaker is Natalie Toletta. She's Yolanda's dear niece. They've been friends and colleagues in a way for a long time. Natalie, would you unmute and go ahead?
Thank you, Sherry. I just want to say hello, Anthony, Mirel, Anouk, and yes, feels strange to sit here behind my screen, but still happy to share. So I wrote something, and I will just. Lieve Yolanda, ik zeg gedag. I say goodbye. In February, we were still speaking about meeting up in London again, having there some time in summer or soon at least. And now here we are. Without having had the opportunity to see each other again. You are part of my life in so many ways, and you will always be. You will always be part of my life. As my auntie, spending holidays, sleepovers, and so much more. Dear memories together, like they mentioned Sweden, I was part of that. Being part of your family, baking cookies at the Morshoekweg. In Reewijk, I will always remember the time that I accidentally pushed Mirel in the little river there, stream. And that I needed your reassurance that everything was fine. I wasn't to blame. All those times spent at the boards, just being there, being part of the family, with Mirel and Anouk. Yes. And then later, more in my adult years, where I came with Jean to visit you and Anthony. We spent the time together there. I remember the lovely evening, Anthony, that we spent in that hot tub with champagne. I was going to get married. We were going to get married, Jean and I. And the recommendation, like your advice, probably both of you, that we had to do that in Lake Tahoe and not Las Vegas. That was our idea of coming from Europe, because it was so much more romantic, and that you had done that there, that you got married together there. And you were so right. You were so right. We had a lovely wedding there, and I still cherish that moment. And then Then your time in France, where you had your apartment close by, and but there was again a lot of sharing, just hopping in my car, being able to come over there, Mirelle having her apartment, and again, a lot of sharing and being together, enjoying. That's really what I feel, enjoying each other's company, really enjoying each other's company, just being together. Yes, yeah. Mm. And even in Anselmo, I recently visited you, the time together in London, a lovely weekend where we also went to see Anouk. It was also great to spend some time there. Again, this hanging out together, the laugh, just being together. I cherish that really. And then finally, as my spiritual guidance, you giving me the helping hand, and as my godmother, helping me find my way when I was lost, standing by my side for over more than 10 years, relentlessly, always available, loving, kind, giving your time. Yes. Allowing you to grow in a completely different way. We often joked about it, It was really like, wow, it's being my godmother. We could have thought that when I was a child. Yeah. I would have loved to have more time with you here in the now. I will miss you enormously. But for now, my dearest auntie, godmother, friend, I say goodbye. Ik zeg gedag. Thank you. And a big hug, Anthony, Ralph, Anouk. I love you. And I'm with you. I'm with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. And now we'll hear from Tamsin Pinkerton, who is a student of Yolanda's and would like to share a poem that she's written.
Hi, everyone. With wings. I think of you as a swift, swooping and rejoicing in arrival in summer, or as a mallard laughing at the play of people on the shore, or as a nuthatch finding food in the narrowest cracks and saving it for harsher times, or as a queenfisher, quick in your kindness to spot our silver fish, or as a swallow making home north and south and feeding in the sky, or as a woodpecker determined to create space in a hard, gnarled tree, or as a tern tenderly cooling hot young feathers with water from the sea, or as a white-tailed eagle still and watching from a high crag as suns turn pink. I know you with wings, as one that sees the dawn and sings, becoming everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Josephine Ann Keeley a student of Yolanda's, would like to speak now.
Thank you. And I'd also like to thank you all for all the marvelous and beautiful things that you've said and shared. I loved her in my way as a student. So fortunate to have such a humble, delicate, wise, loving teacher. But you've enriched this whole beauty that she was. As she helped me. We shared a lot of things, our love of India, our love of the truth, our love of doing the diamond approach. She helped me at personal matters about my daughter, talked about daughters quite a bit. And I think that thread I heard earlier on that she was weaving has woven its way for me to be able, in the very last few weeks, to have, after 57 years, the most deep and beautiful, loving conversation with my daughter. I think that was Yolanda weaving her mystery and her magic in my life. We also shared, found out in September I had a heart condition, and we talked a lot in September and October and November about what I should do. And I, without any other than gentleness from her, I made my decision to take no medical assistance and to accept that I've lived a life, and whatever comes, I will allow to happen without any medical interference, and to extend my life any longer by other things. And she shared that with me tenderly and sweetly while I made that decision for myself, which I did by Christmas. And therefore the shock of her being ill the pain was great, enormous. I thought she was going to be with me whilst I did what I had to do. Anyway, I too had two little bits of things that I want to share. We talked a lot about actually Thomas Merton, because I was deep into Thomas Merton, and I have a little quote from him, and then just a few lines of Rumi, which I thought lots of people would be quoting, because Rumi just feels Rumi was doing all the time, was the essence too of how I felt Yolanda. But I will read the one that from Thomas Merton, like the other participant read from him too, which was very touching to hear his poem. This is from his one of his books. And I believe this of her: we do not exist for ourselves alone. And it is only when we are fully convinced of the fact that we begin to love ourselves properly, and thus also love others. What do I mean by loving ourselves properly? I mean, first of all, desiring to live well, accepting life as a very great gift and a great good, not because of what it gives us, but because of what it enables us to give to others. And she gave, and she gave, and she gave. And then just a few lines from Rumi, if I may. It's called Leaving. And we talk about these things together. Every moment love arrives from all sides, but no more sightseeing. We are leaving for pure emptiness, traveling with friends we once lived with, beyond angels, beyond spirit, to our home city of majesty. Load up, say goodbye to the dusty place. A young luck rides at the head of us, giving up the soul is the main business of this caravan, with the chosen one leading, the one the moon came begging to. A humble, delicate girl is following, the fragrance of her hair, and I will add, is Yolanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. Let's go now to Kartik. He's in India. It's 1 a.m. Pacific time in India at the moment. And he has been so important, and his family, in Yolanda and Anthony's life in Tiruvannamalai. Kartik, please unmute yourself and go ahead. There you are. Hi. Please go ahead. I think you need to, we're having trouble hearing you. Let's see if we can have that happen. I'm sorry, it's still not working. There must be a problem on the feed from India. Thank you. Thank you, Kartik. So sorry we couldn't hear you. Let's go now to Bhakti Banner, who's a dear friend of Anthony and Yolanda's from Tiruvannamalai, and they met at the ashram. Bhakti, please go ahead.
Can you hear me this time?
Yes, thank you.
Great. I'm on my husband Rom's computer. Oh, it's just been incredible to hear all the lovers of Yolanda speak. So deeply touching and such a rich and loving tapestry of beings. Yes, hello to you all. Namaste from Holy Arunachala in South India in Tiruvannamalai. And hello to all you dear friends and family of beloved Yolanda and Anthony. Ram and I send our heartfelt condolences to Anthony and family, and we, all your friends in India, stand beside you in your grief and in your great loss, in deep support and love. We met 7 or 8 years ago at Anthony and Yolanda's beautiful home here, not far from the Ramana Maharshi's ashram. My husband Ram and I fell in love with them almost immediately, sharing a common inspiration to live awakened lives and a love for Ramana Maharshi and Arunachala. We all brainstormed a name for their home, which aspired to be a gathering place for like-minded souls, as Emma spoke of. And Ram came up with the Sanskrit word Sangam, which, as Emma said, is the word for a confluence of rivers, especially that of the Holy Ganga, the Yamuna, and the Saraswati. It also has the meaning of an association of people, in particular, the gathering of Tamil poets of long ago. I mention this because it is a perfect word for Yolanda. She was this confluence, this meeting of so many threads of wisdom from many diverse systems of thought and practice. She was eclectic, open, and flexible in her thinking, and vast, so vast in her heart. The rivers of our love flow into the confluence, the Sangam, of the one radiant heart that is Yolanda. Wisdom, compassion, love, light, tenderness, strength, and especially divine will, all flow together into this extraordinary, extraordinary human being. It was a privilege and an honor to share in this journey together. It was far too short. It's so too bad, but sometimes the most radiant ones are taken from us soon and early. We had looked forward to so many more years of inquiry and contemplation and lively discussion together with her and pizza nights at Sangam. Her quite abrupt departure has left a very deep sadness, but at the same time, I hear her sparkling laughter. Emma and I meditated together soon after her passing, and we both had this vision in our meditation as we came out and spoke of her beautiful wide smile filled with joy and laughter. There was a celebration and a sense of jubilation in her immense, vast freedom. Like just before Ramana Maharshi's Mahasamadhi, devotees were disheartened by his failing health, and Bhagavan used to say, "They say that I am dying, but I am not going away. Where could I go? I am here." True to his words, even after his death, his divine presence and guidance have been continuing and lighting the fire of love and truth in the hearts of innumerable devotees as he touched Yolanda and as she touched us. In honor of dear Yolanda, I would like to recite a poem of Rilke's. She was in herself like a woman near term and did not think of the man going on ahead or the path climbing upwards towards life. She was in herself, and her being in death filled her with abundance as a fruit with sweetness and darkness. So she was full with her vast death. Beloved Yolanda, we love you so, so much, and you're going to be sorely missed. Thank you for gracing our life with your magnificent, magnificent presence. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhakti. And now we'll go to Geraldine Zellner, who is a dear niece of Yolanda's and has been really important with her husband in Yolanda and Tony's life. Geraldine, why don't you go ahead? You can just go ahead right now.
For everybody, we are so grateful that we can join you. 2 years ago, Kamal and I moved to Sardinia with our children because we had a mission, and that was founding a retreat center and a conscious hotel where people can enjoy and grow and just be. And when we spoke with Anthony and Yolanda about our plans, it turned out that we had the same dream. And even without having been on the island, they followed their hearts and decided to join us on the journey, full of trust, so brave. A month later, spontaneously, Yolanda and Anthony visited Sardinia, and we had fun and we enjoyed each other's company. And we spoke about things we love and kept dreaming aloud. And we visited the valley and buildings, and there, sitting on the porch, sensing the mystical and ancient energy, we felt the beginning of a new, exciting chapter in life. And we named it Soul Valley. We enjoyed our many online brainstorms that followed, and time flew when we sat together. And it was striking how much we were on the same page. Sad was the news of the illness of Yolanda. we would have loved so much to have given birth to Soul Valley together, and then to see it grow and mature as family, as one. My wise aunt, who could fill my heart with love and joy, from whom I wished to learn so much more, and whose support and trust felt like a gift. God had other plans. Our connection intensified during this period, and she beautifully described how it was part of her journey in life. And she spoke about mystery at work in the depth of her being, leaving behind all opinions and judgment about being in the not knowing. Truth arose together with a profound self-love and care for body and soul. Every physical pain was met with a tsunami of love, a golden heart flow to every cell of the body, a further deepening of the black. In sharing these experiences, Yolanda also found a profound call in being a teacher of death and dying. Towards the end, she shared a vision. She expressed her faith in the ultimate purpose of reaching out to many souls worldwide. And she spoke about light, passion, purity, about angels and mystery at work. And in this vision, she spoke of her ongoing commitment to offer guidance when needed and of keeping an eye over Soul Valley. We are so lucky to have Yolanda watching over us. And we are likewise blessed with Anthony, who is so incredibly loving, peaceful, wise, and patient. It was during a teaching of the Black Latifa that you passed away, Yolanda. The teaching was about peace and stillness, about the Black and its endless, fulfilling, magical, quiet beauty, a place where we often strive to be during our earthly life. A place where you can be at rest now. I felt so happy for you during the transition. And I also felt sad for the void you leave behind. For Anthony, Anouk, Mirel, Luc, your grandchildren, your students, my mother, and others who will miss you. We now pray for your angelic presence and we send you our love. You are in our hearts and heaven wins a diamond. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine. We'll now go to Janine Maymery, a dear, longtime friend and colleague and sister of Yolanda and Tony's. Janine, will you close this for us?
Oh, I'm taking a breath on Heaven Wins a Diamond, Geraldine. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. Greetings, all beloveds of Yolanda. It's an honor to close or bookend with Melia, her incredibly beautiful invocation. We have by now taken in so much of this spirit, this friend, this mother, this wife, lover, teacher, so many facets of Yolanda. So I start with a breath of absorption, okay? Start with a breath of absorption together. Just allowing your breath to just flow through, and maybe I'll say be blessed by the kind of steadfastness and stamina that our friend Yolanda had in this lifetime for everything, as far as I could tell.
I want to greet Anouk and Mirel, and I want to acknowledge your mother's fierce love, undying love of both of you, and the support that will continue coming from her love. I want to acknowledge Anthony. Thank you for when Yolanda brought me to your home together 30 some years ago. You welcomed me into your heart, and you are my friend. And I love you, and I so appreciate that you told us that you will support Yolanda in the greatest adventure of her life, in her living and dying. From what I witnessed, you were her dear companion and support all your life that I have known you. I think the facets of Yolanda's flexibility, mercurial beauty, the capacity to live and be on this realm and walk in so many realms has been revealed actually through many of the sharings today. It wasn't always easy to be an other realmer on earth, but friends come together and support each other. And Yolanda, in my experience, left nothing undone. Her determined inquiry uncovered anything and everything until it was cleaned out. And somebody said maybe it wasn't perfect. As far as I can tell, it's really close. That cleaning and clearing and shedding and sloughing until there's nothing left but this kind of delight and love and purity. And that made her so light to leave that body. I'll offer a couple of little very ordinary touches to this moment. Well, one isn't ordinary, and that is watching Yolanda walk up the stone steps at Arunachala on the way to Ramana's caves, and watching her go from actually stepping on the stones to stepping about 2 inches above the stones as she lithely and elegantly took her journey up that mountain. In, of course, a beautiful flowing skirt with peach and white. And I'll just also share 2 little, these keep coming to me. I wish everyone could have a friend that was that much fun to walk down the streets of San Francisco, suddenly find a shoe shop, walk in and buy a delightful pair of slippers, and then walk all over San Francisco arm in arm. This ordinary moment, how Yolande lived, was this relishing, and we could share that. And then I'm coming back to the tea, Anouk, the tea that she loved almost as much as talking. And our dear friend had a lot to say, a lot of incredible realms to speak from. And so I will just offer this to you, dear ones, lovers of Yolanda. The moment when, Anthony, you usually bring the most ordinary tea, Lipton tea, but in the De Andrade way, with just the right amount of sugar and milk, and set it down. And the intimacy of Yolanda being so fully right here, right now, sipping this tea and setting it down purposefully, and smacking her lip and saying, yeah, that's a good tea. I'll bring us back to that absorption of anything and everything that can flow through us now. Opening, relaxing, being at ease in our love of Yolanda, of her life, of all of us, her circle of lovers, a circle really of family of heart. May our holding, our being together, be a buoyant field of loving light, releasing, lifting, offering a freedom space for her journey, mysterious and onward. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you, Mirel and Nook and Anthony.
Thank you, Janine. And now we'll move back to the hall. And the next part of the service will happen, moving around through the hall. Claire, are you taking over there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Sherry. So now we'd like to invite people to come up and by row, and you can leave your rows in this basket and your cards to Yolanda and the other basket. And we ask that you circle the entire coffin, and the flowers and the notes will be placed with Yolanda. And Anthony's going to begin. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you, everyone on Zoom, for coming today as well. Blessings.